They laughed at the old man with a stethoscope, called him obsolete, a relic in a world of AI and diagnostics. Captain Brannan thought machines could outthink men like Raymond Ellis. What he didn't know was that Ellis could hear what computers couldn't, a dying engine's final cry. Stick around, because when the ship trembled and tech failed, it wasn't the algorithms that saved the $4.3 billion vessel. It was the man they dismissed. And now the Navy's rewriting its future, because one veteran refused to stay silent. We read every single comment, so tell us where you're watching from and what time you found this. And don't forget to subscribe. Raymond Ellis stood on the gleaming deck of the USS Halcyon, his weathered fingers clutching the brass stethoscope that had guided him through 3 decades of naval service. The morning sun caught the instrument's tarnished surface, a relic that seemed to mock the sleek digital displays surrounding him. Around him, a dozen young technicians hammered frantically at their keyboards, their faces bathed in the artificial glow of computer screens. "Step aside, old man!" Captain Eli's Brannan commanded his pristine uniform and polished insignia, reflecting the same cold efficiency as the ship's AI systems. "This is a matter for modern solutions, not your antiquated tricks." The captain's voice carried the sharp edge of someone who'd never known the true heart of a ship, who trusted algorithms over instinct. The stethoscope felt heavier in Ellis's pocket as he watched Brannan tap his security clearance into yet another terminal. The mighty vessel, a $4.3 billion testament to human innovation, lay paralyzed beneath their feet. But beneath the digital silence, Ellis could feel something else, a rhythm, a pulse like a whispered secret from the ship itself. "Sir, with respect," Ellis began, his voice steady, despite the tension. "I've diagnosed engine problems since before these computers were even blueprints. Maybe if we just—" "That's enough!" Brannan snapped his face, flushing red as nearby crew members paused their work to watch. "This isn't your father's Navy anymore, Chief. We don't fix billion-dollar weapon systems by listening to them like some backyard mechanic." A young ensign captured the exchange on her phone, the video destined for a viral moment under Bushrak or Halcyon crisis. Ellis noticed but didn't flinch. He'd seen too many storms at sea to be rattled by social media tempests. The stethoscope seemed to pulse against his chest, a reminder of countless nights spent learning the language of engines from his father. "These ships," his father used to say, "they speak to those who know how to listen." Now, standing in the shadow of Brannan's digital empire, those words echoed with renewed urgency. Captain Ellis said, drawing himself to full height, "When technology fails, experience prevails. These systems you trust so completely, they're just tools. The real heart of this ship beats deeper than any program can reach." Brannan's laugh cut through the tense air. "And I suppose you're going to save us all with that antique around your neck. This isn't a recruitment poster, Chief. This is a modern naval vessel with state-of-the-art AI integration. Your time has passed." But as the words left Brannan's mouth, the ship's emergency lights flashed red, and a new alarm joined the chorus of warnings. The AI system's status displays shifted from yellow to critical red, and the young technicians' faces drained of color. Ellis felt the deck plates beneath his feet changing their vibration, a subtle shift that no computer sensor had registered. He'd felt this before 20 years ago off the coast of Singapore, when a destroyer's propulsion system had nearly torn itself apart. The stethoscope seemed to burn in his pocket, now demanding to be used. As Brannan barked orders into his comm unit, and the crew scrambled to respond, Ellis quietly withdrew the instrument, its brass warming to his touch. "Can your algorithms hear the ship's heart breaking?" "Captain." Ellis wondered aloud, his fingers curling around his father's legacy. Can they feel the difference between a dying engine and one crying out for help? Type wisdom in the comments if you believe sometimes the old ways know best. The great question hung in the air like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. In this age of artificial intelligence and digital mastery, Could the forgotten language of human experience still save them all? The next 24 hours would test not just a ship's systems, but the very essence of what it means to truly know a vessel's soul. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as Ellis raised the stethoscope to the nearest bulkhead, its brass surface catching the red warning lights like drops of blood. The battle between human intuition and artificial intelligence had begun, and Raymond Ellis intended to prove that some knowledge can't be coded into ones and zeros. Sometimes, Ellis whispered more to himself than the watching crew. You have to close your eyes to truly see. Raymond Ellis grips the brass stethoscope tighter, its familiar weight anchoring him as he moves through the USS Halcyon's corridors. 35 years of Navy experience screams that something's wrong, but these bright-eyed engineers with their tablets and touchscreens look at him like he's a relic. Their AI diagnostics show all systems nominal, perfect, pristine, predictable. But the old chief knows better. The stethoscope picks up an arrhythmic flutter in the hybrid drive, a subtle discord that sends chills down his spine. It reminds him of the USS Constellation back in '89, right before the number 2 turbine nearly tore itself apart. Back then, his mentor, Chief Martinez, had taught him to trust his ears over the gauges. Machines speak to those who listen, Martinez would say, polishing his own brass stethoscope every evening watch. The young techs huddle around their holographic displays, debating algorithms and neural network patterns. They've never felt a failing bearing's death rattle through their palms, at midnight never learned to distinguish between a healthy hum and a cry for help. Their world is binary, ones and zeros, green lights and red alerts. They trust the AI implicitly believing its quantum processors can detect any flaw. But as Raymond presses the stethoscope against another junction box, the irregular rhythm grows clearer. It's like a familiar sea shanty played slightly off-key. He knows this song has heard it countless times throughout his career. The drive isn't just malfunctioning. It's trying to tell him something. Years of experience have taught him that machines develop personalities, quirks, patterns that no programming can fully capture. His thoughts drift to his father's workshop, where he first learned to diagnose engines by sound and touch. The old man would blindfold him, make him identify problems just by listening. "Technology fails, son," he'd say, but these, tapping his ears, these never lie. Now, standing in this state-of-the-art engine room, those lessons echo louder than ever. Captain Brannan's voice crackles over the intercom. "Chief Ellis Engineering reports all systems within parameters. Your concerns have been noted, but we're proceeding as planned." The dismissal in his tone is clear. The old ways have no place in his modern Navy. Raymond's fingers trace the worn engravings on his stethoscope. Ellis G.W., USN 1962, his father's name nearly smooth from decades of use. The instrument has guided 3 generations of Ellis men through countless crises, never once steering them wrong. But now its wisdom falls on deaf ears. Type "listen" if you've ever known something was wrong when everyone else said it was fine. The hybrid drive's discordant note grows stronger, a warning bell only he seems to hear. The young engineer's confidence in their AI suddenly strikes him as dangerous, not just for the ship, but for the very soul of seamanship. They've forgotten that machines are more than collections of parts and programs. They're living things with voices of their own. Looking at his reflection in a polished panel, Raymond sees not an obsolete chief, but a guardian of forgotten knowledge. His weathered hands hold centuries of naval tradition passed down through calloused palms and careful ears. The brass stethoscope gleams dully, a talisman against the sterile glow of LCD screens. As he makes another round of the engineering spaces, Raymond realizes this isn't just about one malfunctioning drive. It's about the wisdom being lost in the rush toward automation, the human touch that no artificial intelligence can replicate. Every time another old salt retires, another piece of that wisdom slips away, replaced by circuits and software. The stethoscope picks up new harmonics now, overtones that send his heart racing. He's heard this precise combination only once before aboard the USS Virginia during that storm off Cape Hatteras. The memory surfaces with crystal clarity, the drive failing the storms howling and Chief Martinez's steady voice guiding them through. But who will guide the next generation when the last of the old chiefs are gone? When every diagnosis comes from an algorithm, every decision from a neural net, the thought chills him more than any mechanical failure ever could. The irregular rhythm continues its ominous song, growing stronger with each passing hour. Raymond Ellis stands his ground stethoscope pressed against the hull, listening to the truth that no computer can hear. The old ways may be fading, but they're not dead yet. Not while he still has breath to pass them on. Have you ever felt like you were the last one holding on to something important that everyone else had forgotten? Chief Warrant Officer Brannan stands at the bridge window, watching his reflection distort in the reinforced glass as another tremor runs through the USS Halcyon. His shoulders stiffen at the harsh buzz of the priority comm channel, the fourth call from Naval Command in 2 hours. The vibration of his phone hasn't stopped either notifications flooding in about Trutor ghost ship trending across social media. Someone in engineering must have leaked footage of the morning's chaos. Sir Admiral Chen is requesting immediate contact. Lieutenant Ross reports her voice carrying an edge Brannan hasn't heard before. The respect in her tone has shifted to something else. Uncertainty. Brannan's fingers trace the captain's bars on his collar, a habit that once brought comfort, but now feels like touching ice. The weight of 20 years of naval service presses down on him as he watches the diagnostic screens flash their useless warnings. That old-timer Ellis and his archaic methods are making him look like a fool in front of his crew. The ship's AI propulsion system wails another alert, but Brannan knows it's lying. He's spent the last 6 hours watching his authority erode as Ellis's predictions prove right again and again. The stethoscope readings that seemed so ridiculous this morning are now making his state-of-the-art computer systems look like expensive paperweights. "Sir," Ross prompts again. There's a whisper of movement behind him. Crew members exchanging glances, sharing quick glances at their phones. Ghost Ship has evolved into like Brannan blunder, and he can feel his carefully constructed world of protocols and procedures starting to crack. The ship shudders again, and Brannan's coffee mug slides across the console, leaving a dark trail across his immaculate reports. The sound of liquid dripping onto the floor echoes unnaturally loud in the tense silence. "Tell command I'll report when I have something concrete to report." He snaps, knowing even as he speaks that it's the wrong response. His phone buzzes again, a message from the base commander himself. The words blur before his eyes. CNN picking up the story, "Control this situation immediately." Ellis's voice carries from engineering through the comm system, that infuriating calm tone explaining something about harmonic resonance to a group of fascinated junior officers. Brannan's hand clenches around his captain's bars, the metal edges biting into his palm. He's losing control of his ship to a man who treats a billion-dollar vessel like an old car that just needs a good listen. The next tremor brings a new sound, a deep, rhythmic grinding that makes Ellis's warnings from this morning echo in Brannan's mind. "The AI's trapped in its own logic," the old chief had said. "It's like a dog chasing its tail, sir. The more it tries to fix things, the worse it makes them." Brannan checks the time. 6 hours since he dismissed Ellis's concerns. 6 hours of watching his modern protocols fail, while old-school intuition proves right. His reputation is dissolving with each passing minute, each new social media alert, each knowing look from his crew. "Lieutenant Ross," he calls out, his voice sounding strange in his own ears. "Get me Chief Ellis on the line." The words taste like defeat. A new hashtag flashes across his phone, Wander Brannan Goes Ghost. The future he'd planned, promotion to Admiral modernizing the entire fleet, seems to be slipping away with each viral tweet questioning his judgment. The grinding sound gets louder. And Brannan realizes he has to make a choice, hold on to his pride, and possibly lose his ship, or admit that sometimes the old ways, the human ways, still have their place. His captain's bars feel heavier than ever as he picks up the comm unit. Everything he's built his career on, the embrace of technology, the belief in modern solutions, seems to be mocking him now. The ship's AI continues its futile corrections, trapped in its own digital certainty, while somewhere below decks, an old sailor with a stethoscope understands what all their advanced systems cannot. Sotum. Type pride falls if you've ever had to admit you were wrong. The next tremor feels like judgment itself, and Brannan knows sometimes the biggest threat isn't failure. It's refusing to see when you're already failing. Captain Ellis Brannan stands before the assembled crew on the USS Halcyon's deck, the rising sun casting long shadows across their faces. His perfectly pressed uniform feels like a mockery, now a symbol of the rigid protocols and blind faith in technology that nearly doomed his ship. The gentle hum of the properly functioning engines below deck makes his hands tremble slightly, a sound he'd taken for granted until 24 hours ago. I was wrong. Captain Brannan announces, his voice carrying across the unusually quiet deck. The words taste bitter in his mouth, but there's also a strange relief in finally saying them. I let my pride in our advanced systems blind me to the fundamental truths of seamanship. His fingers brush against the tablet in his pocket, the same device he'd wielded like a shield yesterday, spouting regulations and digital diagnostics while his ship was dying beneath him. Now it feels cold, lifeless. The viral videos are still circulating. Ghost Ship has reached 2 million views, showing his earlier arrogant dismissal of Chief Ellis's old-school methods. The comments are brutal, but deserved. Looking at the brass stethoscope now displayed prominently in the ship's museum case, Ellis's simple tool that saved them all, Captain Brannan feels the full weight of his hubris. Technology without wisdom is just expensive noise. He continues drawing from the harsh lessons of the past day. The assembled crew nods, many of them recording this moment on their phones. He knows this too will probably go viral, but it doesn't matter anymore. Some truths need to be shared. From this day forward, the USS Halcyon will implement a new training protocol. Captain Brannan declares his voice stronger now. Every officer, every engineer will learn both digital and analog diagnostic methods. We'll build a bridge between the wisdom of experience and the power of innovation. The ship's AI interface chirps softly from nearby monitors, its algorithms now properly calibrated to work in harmony with human oversight. Captain Brannan approaches the museum case, placing his captain's bars beside the stethoscope. Some things can't be coded, he says more to himself than the crowd. Some knowledge lives in the hands and the heart. As the ceremony concludes, Captain Brannan watches the sunrise glinting off the brass stethoscope. The viral hashtag has evolved now. George Halcyon lesson is trending, carrying his story of humility and adaptation across the globe. His phone buzzes with another notification. The Navy is implementing his new hybrid training protocols fleet-wide. Have you ever had to admit that the old ways still matter? Share this story if you've learned that progress doesn't always mean abandoning the past. Type wisdom if you believe some knowledge can't be downloaded. The words appear beneath the latest viral video as Captain Brannan's transformation becomes a lesson for others. In his quarters that evening, Captain Brannan records his final log entry of this extraordinary day. The true power of a leader isn't in never being wrong, he speaks into the recorder, but in being humble enough to learn from anyone, anywhere. Even if that means learning from the past we thought we'd outgrown. The engines continue their healthy purr throughout the ship, a harmony of old wisdom and new technology. As Captain Brannan finally understands, sometimes the future needs the past to find its way forward. Drop 1. If this story reminded you that sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best ones, share this video to help others remember that true wisdom knows no expiration date. Halcyon Lesson. Navy Wisdom.